I was selling food on the street when my family drove by and laughed. Not a quiet chuckle. Not the kind you hide behind your hand. The kind that carries. The kind meant to be heard. Tyler drove. Madison sat beside him, phone up, recording. They slowed down just enough to make sure I saw them, just enough to make sure everyone else did too. "You're embarrassing us," Tyler called out, his window down, his voice pitched for the lunch crowd gathered around my cart. I kept working, kept my hands moving, kept my head down. The smell of grilled onions and peppers rose around me like a shield. I focused on that, on the sizzle, on the orders stacking up, on the customers who didn't care about the luxury sedan idling at the curb or the two people inside it performing their humiliation routine. Madison leaned across Tyler, her smile bright and empty. "Seriously, Graham, this is sad." I didn't look up. I flipped a patty, checked the temperature, plated it with the efficiency of 30 years in the food business. The customer in front of me paid, took his lunch, nodded his thanks. He didn't seem to notice the show happening 10 feet away. But other people did. A woman with a briefcase glanced over. A guy in a suit paused mid-stride. A couple at the bench nearby lowered their voices and stared. Tyler laughed again, louder this time. Madison's phone stayed up, capturing everything. Then they drove off, windows rolling up, taking their spectacle with them. I exhaled slowly, wiped down the griddle, checked my watch. Elise stood across the street, half hidden behind a newspaper box. She didn't move, didn't react, just watched. That's the thing about Elise. She doesn't waste energy on anger. She files it away, catalogs it, waits. I've been married to her for 32 years. I know that look. The lunch rush picked up again. I served. I smiled. I made small talk. I pretended everything was fine. By 2 o'clock, the crowd had thinned. I started cleaning up, scraping the griddle, organizing supplies. My hands moved on autopilot while my brain kept replaying the moment. Tyler's laugh, Madison's phone, the strangers watching. "You're embarrassing us." Funny thing about that sentence. It's not about shame. It's about control. It's about making sure I know my place in their story. I used to own a business, a real one. A commissary kitchen that supplied half the food vendors in the city. I built it from scratch, hired people, trained them, taught them how to turn raw ingredients into something people lined up for. Tyler and Brooke grew up in that kitchen. They learned the business alongside me. They watched me negotiate with suppliers, manage staff, handle the city permits and health inspections and late-night equipment breakdowns. Then one day, they decided they could do it better. They rebranded, modernized, took the name I'd built and made it theirs. They pushed me out gently at first. Suggestions, concerns, boundaries. "You're too old school, Dad. You don't understand the market anymore. It's time to let the next generation take over." I stepped back, let them lead, figured they'd earned it. 6 months later, they locked me out entirely, changed the vendor contracts, restructured the business, took my name off the paperwork. When I asked why, Brooke smiled that sweet, patient smile of hers and said, "We're protecting the brand. Now I sell from a cart. Same recipes, same care, different corner, and they drive by to laugh." A voice pulled me back to the present. "You're the guy who started Hale's Kitchen, right?" I looked up. The customer was young, maybe mid-20s, holding a sandwich I'd just made. He had the kind of face that spent too much time behind a screen, pale and earnest. "Used to be," I said. "Man, I loved that place. Best banh mi in the city. My roommate and I used to hit it every Friday." He paused, glancing at the cart. "Is this the same recipe?" "Close enough." He grinned. "That's awesome. I'm gonna tell people you're here." He walked off, already pulling out his phone. I watched him go, feeling something shift in my chest. Not hope, not yet. Just a flicker of recognition. A reminder that the story I built still mattered to someone. Elise crossed the street, moving with that calm, unhurried stride she uses when she's thinking 3 steps ahead. How bad was it? I asked. Bad enough. She leaned against the cart, arms folded. They posted it already. Madison's feed. 3,000 views in the last hour. I didn't ask to see it. I didn't need to. They're performing, Elise said quietly. That's all this is. A show. I know. So stop giving them an audience. I almost laughed. What do you want me to do? Quit? Walk away? Let them win? I want you to stop acting like this is over. She looked at me, her eyes sharp and clear. It's not. Before I could answer, I heard the engines. 3 of them. Low, expensive, purring like predators. I turned. 3 luxury cars pulled up to the curb, black and sleek, and completely out of place on this corner. The kind of cars that belong in parking garages with valets and reserved spaces, not on a street lined with food carts and discount clothing shops. People stopped, stared, pulled out phones. The first car's door opened. A woman stepped out. She was tall, polished, dressed in a way that suggested money without shouting about it. Her hair was pulled back, her expression calm and controlled. She moved like someone who expected doors to open before she reached them. She walked straight to my cart, stopped, looked at me. Graham Hale? I nodded. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. My name is Vance. We need to talk. About what? About what's yours. She glanced at the cart, then back at me. And what they took. Elise moved closer, stepping into the conversation without hesitation. Who are you? Someone with a vested interest in seeing your husband get what he's owed. Iris's gaze flicked to Elise, assessing her in a fraction of a second. Someone who knows exactly what your children did to make this happen. I felt my pulse quicken. You don't know my kids. I know enough. Iris reached into her jacket and pulled out a slim folder. She set it on the cart's service counter, right between the napkins and the condiment bottles. I know they're about to launch a rebrand. I know they're using your name, your recipes, and your reputation to secure financing they don't deserve. And I know they did it by forging documents and lying to investors. The words landed like stones. Elise picked up the folder, flipped it open. Her face didn't change, but I saw her jaw tighten. What's in there? I asked. Proof, Iris said simply. Or the beginning of it? I looked at the folder, at Iris, at the 3 cars still idling at the curb. Why do you care? Iris's smile sharpened. Because they tried the same thing with me, and I don't forgive easily. She turned to leave, then paused. Meet me tonight. Bring the one person in your house who tells you the truth. She glanced at Elise. I assume that's her? Elise didn't respond, but she didn't need to. Iris already knew the answer. There's an office on 4th and Main, 3rd floor, Suite 312. Iris pulled a card from her pocket and set it beside the folder. 8 o'clock. Don't be late. She walked back to her car, got in, and drove away. The other 2 cars followed, peeling off in perfect formation. The crowd that had gathered slowly dispersed, murmuring and filming and trying to figure out what they'd just witnessed. I stared at the folder. Elise opened it wider, scanning the pages inside. Her eyes moved fast, cataloging, processing. What is it? I asked. Contracts, she said quietly. Licensing agreements, equipment leases, and a signature line. Whose? She looked up at me. Yours, except you never signed it. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What does that mean? It means they forged it. And if this is real, it means their entire rebrand is built on fraud. I reached for the folder, but Elise closed it, her hand firm over the cover. Not here, she said. Tonight. We go see what this woman knows, and then we decide what to do about it. I nodded slowly. For the first time in months, I felt something other than resignation. I felt ready. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. I finished packing up the cart, locked it in the commissary lot I still rented by the week, and went home. Home is a small rental on the east side. 2 bedrooms, dated appliances, a landlord who doesn't care as long as the rent clears. It's not much, but it's mine. Elise made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table and read through the folder Iris had given me. The documents were dense, full of legal language and clauses I barely understood, but the core of it was clear enough. Tyler and Brooke had entered into agreements on behalf of Hale's Kitchen, using my name and reputation as collateral. They'd licensed the brand, leased expensive equipment, secured vendor contracts, and they'd done it all under my signature, except I'd never signed a single page. How did they get away with this? I asked. Elise set a mug in front of me. Because no one checked. They assumed you were still involved. They assumed the paperwork was legitimate. And now? Now someone did check. She sat down across from me. This Iris woman, whoever she is, she has access to financial records that most people don't, which means she's either an investor, a lender, or someone who controls part of the supply chain. I leaned back in my chair. So why help me? Because they screwed her over too. Elise's voice was flat, matter of fact. She said as much, and people like her don't forget. I glanced at the clock. 6:30, an hour and a half until the meeting. Do you trust her? I asked. Elise shrugged. I don't trust anyone we just met, but I trust what's in that folder, and I trust that your kids are about to lose everything if we play this right. I felt a flicker of something dark and satisfying, not guilt, not hesitation, just the quiet certainty that I was done being walked on. We arrived at 4th and Main at 7:50. The building was old but well-maintained, the kind of place that housed small law firms and financial consultants. The lobby was empty except for a security guard who barely glanced at us as we signed in. 3rd floor, Suite 312. The door was unmarked except for a small brass plaque that read, Vance Holdings. I knocked. Iris opened the door herself. She'd changed into something more casual but still sharp. She stepped aside, gesturing for us to enter. The office was small but efficient. A desk, 2 chairs, a shelf lined with binders. A laptop sat open on the desk, screen glowing, and sitting in one of the chairs was a man I didn't recognize. He stood when we entered, extending a hand. Garrett Lyle. I'm an attorney specializing in contract disputes and intellectual property. I shook his hand, noting the firm grip, the direct eye contact. He looked like someone who spent his days in courtrooms and his nights reviewing case law. Graham Hale, I said. This is my wife, Elise. Garrett nodded to her, then gestured for us to sit. Iris closed the door and leaned against the desk, arms folded. Let's get to the point, she said. Your children are launching a rebrand in 2 weeks. They've secured financing, lined up vendor partnerships, and booked a gala to announce the new direction for Hale's Kitchen. They're calling it a legacy continuation. I felt my jaw tighten. Legacy continuation. Yes, they're positioning themselves as the rightful heirs to your work. The next generation taking the brand forward. Iris's voice was calm, clinical. The problem is, they don't own the brand. Not legally. Not fully. Garrett leaned forward. Your original business structure included clauses that protected the core intellectual property, the name, the recipes, the supplier relationships. You retained control over those elements even after stepping back from day-to-day operations. I didn't step back, I said quietly. I was pushed. Irrelevant, Garrett said, not unkindly. What matters is what's on paper. And on paper, you still hold the rights. Your children can't license, lease, or sell anything tied to the Hale's Kitchen brand without your written consent. Elise spoke up. So the agreements they signed are invalid. Correct. And if we prove that? She asked. Garrett smiled faintly. Then their financing collapses, their vendor contracts evaporate, and their gala becomes a public relations disaster. I looked at Iris. You're funding them, aren't you? She didn't flinch. I control the equipment leases. They need my approval to continue using the industrial kitchens, the refrigeration units, the transport vehicles. Without those, they have no business. So why not just pull the plug now? Because that's not enough. Iris's eyes glinted. I want them to feel it. I want them to stand in front of a room full of sponsors and investors and reporters, and I want them to watch everything fall apart in real time. I felt a chill run through me. Not fear, something colder. Recognition. This woman wasn't interested in justice. She was interested in revenge. And so was I. Elise leaned forward. What's the plan? Garrett pulled a folder from his briefcase and opened it on the desk. We file a formal dispute with the city business office. We notify the investors that the licensing agreements are under review. We inform the vendors that the contracts may be void. And we do it all on the day of the gala. Won't they fight back? I asked. They'll try, Garrett said. But by the time they realize what's happening, it'll be too late. The damage will be done, the story will be out, and no amount of spin will save them. Iris pushed off the desk and walked to the window, looking down at the street below. They humiliated you. Publicly. Repeatedly. They turned you into a joke. I didn't respond. She turned back to face me. So the question is simple. Are you ready to take back what's yours? I looked at Elise. She met my gaze, steady and unflinching. Then I looked at Iris. Yes, I said. Good. Iris smiled. Because tomorrow we start pulling threads, and by the time we're done, there won't be anything left for them to hold on to. Garrett closed his folder. I'll need your signature on a few documents. Power of attorney, affidavits, dispute filings, standard procedure. I nodded. When do you need them? Tonight, if possible. I want to file first thing in the morning. Elise stood. Do it. I signed where Garrett pointed, my hand steady. Each signature felt like reclaiming a piece of ground I'd lost. When it was done, Garrett packed up his briefcase and shook my hand again. I'll be in touch tomorrow with updates. In the meantime, keep your head down. Don't engage with your children. Don't give them any warning. Understood. Iris walked us to the door. One more thing, she said. Tomorrow they're meeting with a potential partner, a distributor who's considering carrying the new line. If you want to see how they talk about you when no one's listening, I can tell you where. I hesitated. Why would I want to see that? Because you need to know what you're up against, Iris said simply, and because it'll make what comes next easier. Elise touched my arm. Where? Cafe on 7th, noon, private booth in the back. Iris handed me a slip of paper with the address. Don't confront them. Just watch. Just listen. I took the paper. We left the office and walked back to the car in silence. As Elise started the engine, I looked at the slip of paper in my hand. Are we really doing this? I asked. She pulled out onto the street, her eyes on the road. We already started. The cafe on 7th was the kind of place that served overpriced lattes and called them artisanal. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, chalkboard menus. The tables were small and crowded together, which made it easy to blend in. Elise and I arrived at 11:45. We took a table near the window, ordered coffee, and waited. Tyler and Grant showed up at noon exactly. Grant is Brooke's husband. Tall, polished, the kind of guy who smiles like he's closing a deal even when he's ordering lunch. He shook hands with the distributor, a middle-aged woman in a sharp blazer, and gestured to the booth in the back. Tyler followed, moving with that easy confidence he's always had. The kind that comes from never being told no. They didn't see us. They were too focused on their performance. Elise sipped her coffee, eyes tracking them over the rim of her cup. Booth in the back, she murmured. Just like Iris said. I nodded, keeping my face neutral. The distributor settled into the booth. Tyler and Grant sat across from her, all smiles and handshakes. From where I sat, I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could read the body language. Grant leaning forward, hands open, expressive. Tyler nodding along, chiming in at the right moments. The distributor taking notes, asking questions, looking interested. It was a pitch. A polished, practiced pitch, and they were good at it. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice memo app, and set it on the table. The recording laws in this state allowed for single-party consent. As long as I was present in a public space, I could record. Garrett had checked. I was clear. I stood, grabbed my empty cup, and walked toward the counter. The path took me past their booth. Close enough to hear. Close enough to record. Legacy brand with built-in recognition, Grant was saying. We're not starting from scratch. We're building on decades of trust and reputation. The distributor nodded. And your father is still involved? Tyler's smile didn't falter. He stepped back. Creative differences. But the brand is ours now, fully. So he's not involved in operations? Not at all, Tyler said smoothly. He doesn't own it anymore. We restructured everything, clean slate. I kept walking past their booth toward the counter. My heart was pounding, but my face stayed calm. He doesn't own it anymore. Clean slate. I ordered another coffee I didn't want, paid, and walked back to my table. I sat down, picked up my phone, and stopped the recording. Elise's eyes met mine. You get it? Yeah. Good. We finished our coffee and left before they noticed us. Back in the car, Elise played the recording. Tyler's voice came through clear and sharp. He doesn't own it anymore. She stopped the playback. That's actionable. Meaning? Meaning he just admitted on tape that they took full control without your consent. She restarted the recording, letting it play through to the end. Garrett can use this. I leaned back in my seat, staring out the window. They rewrote the whole story, made themselves the heroes. That's what people do when they steal something, Elise said quietly. They convince themselves they earned it. My phone buzzed. A text from Brooke. Stop embarrassing us or I'll make sure you lose the cart permit. I showed the screen to Elise. She read it, her face hardening. She's threatening you. Yeah. Good. Elise handed the phone back. Let her. Every threat is evidence. I stared at the message for a long moment, then put the phone away. What now? I asked. Now we wait, Elise said. Garrett files the paperwork. Iris starts pulling her levers, and we watch them scramble. The next morning, I woke to 3 missed calls from Tyler. I didn't return them. By 10 a.m., I had 5 more, plus 2 from Brooke and 1 from Madison. I ignored them all. Elise was already up, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. She'd been up since 6, combing through financials, cross-referencing contracts, building a timeline. Garrett filed this morning, she said without looking up. The city business office confirmed receipt. They're reviewing the dispute now. How long does that take? 3 to 5 business days, but word will get out before then. She glanced at me. Your kids will hear about it by tomorrow, maybe sooner. I poured coffee, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. And when they do, they'll panic, they'll call you, they'll try to negotiate. She closed the laptop. Don't answer, don't engage. Let them sit with it. My phone buzzed again. Tyler. I silenced it. Elise stood, picking up her bag. I'm meeting Iris at 11. She wants to walk through the equipment leases, make sure we're covered if they try to claim ownership. You want me to come? No. I need you visible. Go set up the cart. Serve lunch. Act like nothing's happening. She kissed my cheek, quick and efficient. They're watching you, Graham. So let them see you unbothered. She left. I finished my coffee, grabbed my keys, and headed out. But the cart setup went smooth. I'd done it so many times I could work on autopilot, prepping ingredients, organizing supplies, checking propane levels. By 11:30, the lunch crowd started arriving. I served, smiled, made small talk, kept my head down. But I could feel the shift. The way people looked at me. The way they lingered, phones out, like they were waiting for something to happen. Word was spreading. At noon, a woman approached the cart. Mid-40s, expensive coat, city employee badge clipped to her belt. Graham Hale? I nodded. I'm with the vendor licensing office. I need to see your permit. I pulled it from the lockbox and handed it over. She scanned it, took a photo with her phone, then handed it back. There's been a complaint filed regarding health and safety compliance. We'll be conducting an inspection this week. A complaint from who? She didn't answer, just handed me a notice and walked away. I looked down at the paper. Complaint filed by Anonymous. Right. I folded the notice and put it in my pocket. Elise had warned me this would happen. Brooke weaponizing bureaucracy. It was predictable, petty, and completely useless, because Garrett had already anticipated it. He'd advised me to get a pre-inspection done last week, just in case. The cart passed with flying colors, so let them send inspectors. Let them waste city resources. Let them scramble. I kept serving. At 2 p.m., Tyler showed up. He didn't drive by this time. He parked half a block away and walked over, hands in his pockets, face calm. Too calm. He stopped at the cart, glancing at the menu board like he was just another customer. Hey, Dad. I didn't look up. What do you want, Tyler? To talk, like adults. I kept working, flipping a patty, checking the grill temp. I'm busy. I can see that. He leaned against the cart, lowering his voice. Look, I know things have been tense. I know you're upset. But filing a dispute with the city? That's not the way to handle this. I looked at him then, really looked at him. He was wearing a watch I didn't recognize. Expensive, new. His jacket was tailored, his shoes polished. Everything about him screamed success. Except his eyes. His eyes were worried. You wanted me out, I said quietly. You got what you wanted. So what's the problem? The problem is, you're making this harder than it needs to be. He straightened, his voice tightening. We're trying to build something here, something bigger than what you had, but you keep dragging us down. I'm dragging you down? Yes. His jaw set. You're making us look bad, and if you keep pushing this, you're going to regret it. I felt something shift inside me, something cold and final. Get away from my cart, Tyler. He blinked. What? I said get away from my cart. I kept my voice level, calm. You wanted me gone. You got it, so leave me alone. For a moment, he just stood there, staring at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Then he turned and walked away. I watched him go, my hands steady on the spatula. Elise was right. Let them sit with it. By 6 p.m., I'd packed up and locked the cart back in the commissary lot. My phone had 12 missed calls, 7 from Tyler, 3 from Brooke, 2 from Madison. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I drove home, showered, changed, and met Elise at a diner on the south side. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a booth near the back. She'd ordered for both of us. How'd it go? I asked, sliding into the seat across from her. Iris confirmed the leases. She's the primary lien holder on all the equipment. If Tyler and Brooke default, she can trigger repossession within 72 hours. Elise took a bite of her burger, chewing thoughtfully. And they're 3 weeks away from a balloon payment they can't make. 3 weeks? Give or take. Their financing was structured around the gala. They promised investors a successful launch, big press coverage, immediate distribution deals. If that doesn't happen, the money dries up. Garrett said he'd file the investor notifications on the day of the event. He will, but we need more than paperwork. We need witnesses. We need cameras. We need the story to get out before they can spin it. She met my eyes. Which means you need to be there. I felt my stomach drop. At the gala? Yes. They'll never let me in. They won't have a choice. Elise pulled a folded paper from her bag and slid it across the table. Iris got you a vendor pass. You'll be there as part of the catering staff. I stared at the paper. You're serious? Completely. I thought about it, about walking into that room, about watching them smile and shake hands and sell their lies while everything crumbled around them, about being the one to pull the final thread. Okay, I said. Elise smiled faintly. Good, because tomorrow we're going to the commissary. Why? Because that's where they're storing the launch materials, and I want to see exactly what they're planning. Brooke showed up the following Saturday at 7:45. I put her to work immediately. No warm-up, no easing in. She struggled at first. Her knife skills were worse than Tyler's had been. Her timing was off. She got flustered easily, but she didn't quit. Week after week, she came back, worked, learned, improved. Tyler was there too, working at the next station. They didn't talk much at first. The air between them was thick with unspoken history. But slowly, that changed. They started coordinating, sharing equipment, helping each other without being asked. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a start. By spring, the kitchen had found a new rhythm. Tyler and Brooke both worked part-time, fitting shifts around their other jobs. They weren't employees, they were students, and they were learning. One Saturday, after a particularly long shift, Tyler approached me. I want to open a place of my own, he said. I looked at him. Why? Because I want to build something, the right way this time. He paused. And I want your blessing to do it. I thought about it, about the years of pain, about the betrayal, about the slow, difficult work of rebuilding trust. You don't need my blessing, I said. But if you want my advice, I'll give it to you. I do. Then start small. Focus on the food, not the brand. Build relationships with your suppliers, treat your staff well, and don't take shortcuts. He nodded. I will. Good. He left. Brooke appeared beside me. Do you think he'll make it? I don't know, I said honestly, but he's earned the chance to try. That summer, Tyler opened a small cafe on the west side. He invited me to the soft opening. I went along with Elise. The space was modest, 10 tables, simple menu, nothing flashy, but the food was good, really good. Tyler worked the line himself, moving with focus and precision. He'd learned. At the end of the night, he came over to our table. What did you think? He asked. It's solid, I said. Good foundation. He smiled. That's all I was hoping for. Brooke started her own project too. Not a restaurant, a catering company specializing in corporate events. She worked out of our kitchen, renting space and equipment. I charged her market rates. No favors. She built it slowly. One client at a time, one event at a time. Within a year, she was profitable. Within 2 years, she'd outgrown our space and moved into her own. She invited me to the opening. I went. The new space was clean, professional, efficient. She'd built it right. Thanks for giving me a chance, she said. I didn't give you anything, I replied. You earned it. She nodded. I know. 3 years after the gala, Hale's kitchen was thriving. We'd expanded the menu, opened a second location, hired a full-time staff of 12. Elise managed operations. I focused on the food. It was good work, honest work, and it was mine. One evening, as I was closing up, Iris called. I have news, she said. Good news or bad news? Good. I'm selling my stake in the business. I felt my stomach drop. Why? Because you don't need me anymore. Her voice was calm. You've built something sustainable, something that can stand on its own, and I don't invest in businesses that don't need me. Who are you selling to? You. I blinked. What? I'm offering you a buyout. Market rate. You'll have full ownership. She paused. That was always the plan, Graham. I invest. You build. And when you're ready, you take it back. I sat down, processing. I don't have that kind of capital. Garrett's already drafted a payment plan. It's manageable, and it gives you full control. I thought about it, about owning the business outright, about answering to no one. Okay, I said. Let's do it. 6 months later, I signed the final papers. Hale's kitchen was fully mine. No investors, no partners, no strings, just me and Elise and the work we'd built together. That night, we sat in the kitchen after closing, sharing a bottle of wine. How does it feel? Elise asked. I thought about it, about the years of struggle, about the humiliation, about the gala and the rebuilding and the slow, difficult process of starting over. It feels right, I said. She raised her glass. To starting over. I raised mine. To finishing it right. We drank. The Tyler and Brooke both came to the celebration dinner Elise organized. It was small, just family, just us. We sat around the table in the new kitchen, eating food I'd prepared, talking about the business, about their projects, about the future. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward silences, still unspoken pain, but it was real, and it was ours. At the end of the night, Tyler stood and raised his glass. I want to say something, he said. Everyone quieted. I know I messed up. I know we all did. And I know it's taken years to get to this point. He looked at me. But I'm grateful for the second chance, for the lessons, for the patience. He paused. And I'm proud to be your son. I felt something twist in my chest. Not quite forgiveness, not quite reconciliation, but something close. Thank you, I said quietly. Brooke stood next. I want to say something too. She looked at me, her eyes shining. You taught us how to build something real, and I'm sorry it took losing everything for us to understand that. She paused. But I promise you, we're not going to waste this chance. I nodded. Good. We finished dinner in silence. That night, after everyone left, Elise and I cleaned up together. That was nice, she said. It was. Do you forgive them? I thought about it, about the years of pain, about the slow rebuilding of trust. I don't know, I said honestly, but I don't need to. Not yet. She smiled. Fair enough. We finished cleaning and went home. 5 years after the gala, I stood at the cart one morning and looked around. The line stretched around the block. The kitchen was running smoothly. The business was thriving. Tyler's Cafe had expanded. Brooke's catering company had a waiting list, and I was still here, still cooking, still building. A customer stepped up. Is it true you've been doing this for 40 years? Longer, I said. He smiled. That's dedication. No, I said. That's just work. He laughed, took his order, and walked away. I went back to the griddle, flipping patties, checking temperatures, keeping the line moving. Elise appeared beside me, handing me a fresh supply of napkins. You good? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, I'm good. She smiled. Good. We worked in silence side by side the way we always had. The morning of my 65th birthday, I woke to an empty house. Elise had left a note on the counter. Gone to the market. Be back by noon. Don't start without me. I smiled, made coffee, and headed to the kitchen. It was Saturday. Tyler and Brooke were both scheduled to come in for their shifts. I had prep work to finish before they arrived. By the time I got there, the sun was just rising. The kitchen was quiet, peaceful. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Everything was exactly where it should be. Clean, organized, ready. I started prepping, moving through the familiar motions, chopping vegetables, checking inventory, setting up stations. At 7:50, Tyler arrived. Then Brooke. Then, unexpectedly, Madison and Grant. I looked up, surprised. "What are you doing here?" Madison smiled. "We came to help." I almost said no, but then I saw the look on Tyler's face, the quiet hope. "Okay," I said, "but you follow my rules." "Of course," Grant said quickly. I put them to work. For the next 4 hours, we prepped together. All of us. Working side by side in the kitchen I'd built. It wasn't perfect. Madison struggled with knife work. Grant was slow, but they tried. And by the end of the morning, we'd finished everything. At noon, Elise arrived with Garrett and Iris in tow. "Surprise," she said, grinning. I blinked. "What's this?" "Your birthday lunch." She gestured to the table we'd set up in the corner of the kitchen. "We're eating here." I looked at the group, at Tyler and Brooke, at Madison and Grant, at Garrett and Iris and Elise, at the people who'd helped me rebuild. "Thank you," I said quietly. We sat down together and ate. The food was simple, good, honest, and the conversation flowed easily. Laughter, stories, memories. For the first time in years, it felt like family. Not the family I'd lost, but the family I'd rebuilt. After lunch, Iris pulled me aside. "I have something for you," she said. She handed me an envelope. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a letter. It was from the mayor's office, a commendation, recognition for contributions to the local food industry and community resilience. I stared at it. "What is this?" "You earned it," Iris said simply. "Don't argue." I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. "Thank you." She nodded. "You're welcome." And that evening, after everyone left, Elise and I sat in the empty kitchen. "How do you feel?" she asked. I thought about it. About the years of struggle, about the humiliation and the betrayal and the slow, painful rebuilding, about the business I'd lost and reclaimed, about the family I'd rebuilt piece by piece. "I feel whole," I said finally. She smiled. "Good." We sat in silence, watching the sun set through the kitchen windows. The next Monday, I arrived at the cart to find something unexpected, a line, a long one. I looked at the crowd, confused. A woman at the front stepped forward. "We heard it's your birthday week. We wanted to show our support." I felt something warm settle in my chest. "That's kind of you." "You've been feeding us for years," she said. "It's the least we can do." I served them, all of them. By the end of the day, I'd sold out completely. Elise appeared, shaking her head. "You're going to need more supplies." I laughed. "I guess so." The following Saturday, Tyler approached me after his shift. "I want to ask you something," he said. I looked up. "What?" "Would you consider coming on as a consultant for my cafe? Not full-time, just a few hours a week, helping with menu development and training." I thought about it. About the years of distance, about the trust we'd slowly rebuilt. "I'll think about it," I said. He nodded. "That's all I'm asking." 2 weeks later, I said yes. I started consulting for Tyler's Cafe on Tuesday afternoons. Just a few hours. Helping refine recipes, training staff, offering advice. It was good work, collaborative work, and it felt right. Brooke asked me to do the same for her catering company. I said yes to that too. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. One evening in late fall, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Mr. Hale?" "Yes. This is the James Beard Foundation. We'd like to invite you to apply for our annual award in the category of Community Leadership in Food Service." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" The voice on the other end laughed. You've been nominated. Multiple times, actually. We'd like to formally invite you to submit an application. I sat down, processing. I don't know what to say. Say yes. We'll send you the details. They hung up. I stared at the phone. Elise appeared beside me. What was that? The James Beard Foundation, I said slowly. They want me to apply for an award. She smiled. Of course they do. I submitted the application. I didn't think much about it, didn't let myself hope. But 3 months later, I got another call. I'd won. The ceremony was in New York, black tie, formal. I'd never felt more out of place in my life. But when they called my name and I walked onto that stage, I felt something shift. Not pride, not quite. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing I'd done the work. And the work had mattered. The following spring, Hale's Kitchen celebrated its 40th anniversary. We threw a party, invited everyone, customers, staff, family, friends. Tyler and Brooke both spoke. They talked about the journey, about the mistakes they'd made, about the lessons they'd learned, and they thanked me, not for forgiving them, but for teaching them. At the end of the night, I stood at the microphone, looking out at the crowd. I've spent 40 years doing this work, I said, and I've learned a lot, about food, about business, about people. I paused. But the most important thing I've learned is this: the work matters. The care you put into it matters. The people you do it for matter. I looked at Tyler and Brooke, at Elise, at the crowd. So, thank you for believing in this, for supporting it, for making it real. I stepped away from the microphone, the crowd applauded, and I went back to work. 2 years later, I stood at the cart on a Tuesday morning serving lunch to the usual crowd. A car pulled up. Luxury sedan, black, polished. The window rolled down. I looked up. It was Tyler. He smiled. Need any help, old man? I laughed. Get over here. He parked, got out, and stepped up to the cart. We worked side by side, serving customers, making food, talking about nothing and everything. Brooke showed up an hour later, then Elise. By the end of the lunch rush, we'd served 200 people, and it felt right. And that evening, I closed up the cart and drove home. Elise was waiting on the porch, 2 glasses of wine in hand. I sat beside her. Good day? She asked. Good day, I said. We sat in silence, watching the sunset. Do you ever regret it? She asked. The way it all turned out? I thought about it, about the years of pain, about the rebuilding, about the family I'd lost and found again. No, I said finally. I don't. She smiled. Good. We drank our wine and watched the sky turn dark. 5 years after that, I retired. Not from the business, just from the cart. Tyler took it over. Brooke expanded her catering company into a full restaurant, and I stepped back. I spent my days consulting, teaching, helping other small business owners navigate the challenges I'd faced. It was good work, meaningful work, and it was enough. On my 75th birthday, my grandchildren asked me to tell them a story. What kind of story? I asked. A story about you, my oldest granddaughter said, about how you started the business. I thought about it, about the years of work, about the betrayal and the rebuilding and the slow, difficult process of reclaiming what was mine. It's a long story, I said. We have time, she replied. So I told them. I told them about the cart, about the kitchen, about the gala and the revenge and the rebuilding. I told them about the mistakes I made and the lessons I learned, and I told them about the work, the care, the people who mattered. When I finished,